I've actually made a lot of time over the last year to watch a bunch of LGBTQ films. Some were really good and others were just complete trash. But the important part is that they were all LGBTQ. However, if you do a bunch of digging like I did, you find a bunch of hidden gems on Amazon Prime, on Hulu, on Netflix, just about anywhere. My favorite is a streaming service called Outfest. It's actually an LGBTQ film festival, but they've expanded to having their own streaming service. In no way is this a comprehensive list of LGBTQ films, but it's a lot that I've fallen in love with and that I've kept on a list of movies to rewatch. Transhood is a really I feel like every time I film, there's a leaf blower outside my window or construction or something. Transhood is a really important movie and just an incredible documentary about trans lives. It's very rare to be able to watch someone's transition. And Transhood does that with 4 different kids. They range from like 4 years old to 16 years old. Not all of them are trans. Some of them are non-binary or gender fluid. Some of them are just exploring. You see how these families raise their children as they're transitioning or as they're exploring their gender identity. It's really powerful and personal, because I'm sure at that stage in anyone's life, really, going through puberty and figuring out your identity is really hard to show when there's cameras around. To be able to see into the lives of gender non-conforming people and the struggles that they have to go through in their daily lives. Everything from telling their family how they feel about themselves, to telling people at school, to having their first relationships. It's a wild experience to see that. And for anyone that doesn't have trans friends or doesn't have non-binary friends, this is a really good movie to watch to see what these people go through. And then on the other side of that, it's really good for trans and non-binary people to watch so they can see that they're not alone and that some of the things that they go through are very similar to other people that are going through the same situations. Moonlight won the Academy Award for Best Picture, even though they announced that it was another movie that won, but the actual winner was Moonlight. What a messy night that was for the Oscars. Moonlight is about a gay black man in different stages of his life. The all-black cast is incredible in this movie. Normally, I don't really get into movies that make it to the Academy Awards. I usually like more low-key movies, more independent movies, but this one, it almost wasn't meant to be at the Oscars, but it was just so good that nobody can deny it. I love the first quarter of the movie. In that stage of the protagonist's life, it was so compelling, and to see him as a kid going through what he went through was really interesting to watch. But because it jumps from like different ages a few different times throughout the movie, I don't like that kind of movie. Like, I want to follow one character. I don't want to jump to a new actor who is also this person. That's my perspective on it. The thing with the LGBTQ films, much like how I reviewed books in an earlier video, we don't have to like all the LGBTQ movies just because they're LGBTQ. But seeing the representation and seeing the options of these different movies is such a giant win for the community. Because there was a time not too long ago where we did not have LGBTQ film options. The Miseducation of Cameron Post is one of the best hidden gems that I've watched in a really long time. It should come with a major trigger warning though. It's about this teenage girl that gets caught with another girl. So her family sends her to a gay conversion therapy camp. She meets a lot of different people under the LGBTQ umbrella there, and what they do is they try to pretend that they're being cured just so they can escape. It's definitely on the drama side, but it's got a lot of comedic elements. It's a look into what gay conversion therapy does, which is still a big issue in the country today. The Miseducation of Cameron Post is... The Miseducation of Cameron Post is a really fun movie to follow because you're rooting for these people, these queer people, to escape this horrible, unnecessary camp. Oh my god, Secret Love. This movie was one that everybody started talking about very recently. If you want to cry, watch this movie. If you want to cry multiple times, definitely watch this movie. It's about 2 elderly lesbians that have been together for like, I don't know, 70 years, something super ridiculous. And one of them never told her family until now. Imagine that. Imagine after 70 years, not telling your family that you are a lesbian. That's gotta be so difficult. In this documentary, it's wild how when you're that old, you're still worried about what your family's gonna think of you. This woman is like on the tail end of her life, and what she keeps thinking about is how her family is going to treat her after finding out that she's a lesbian, even though she's been with the same one for decades. It always makes me feel good seeing elderly LGBTQ people because they survive. They've reached an age that a lot of LGBTQ people don't have the privilege of seeing. It's a really good movie, especially since these two women are so humble and they just want to be together and live their life. They're not flashy, they're not showy, they don't crave the media attention. They're just two elderly women like in love, and it's really cute. It reminds me how I'll be alone forever. Just kidding, probably. Now to move on to a very classic LGBTQ film. This one, since it's an older film, does not necessarily have LGBTQ actors, at least not that I can remember. Instead, it's straight cis actors that play drag queens and a transgender woman. It's still a really good, powerful movie that, at a time when these movies were not coming out, really made a difference. To Wong Foo, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. That's a f***ing mouthful for a movie title, so we'll just call it To Wong Foo, which is also a really dumb name, but you'll remember it. They're on a road trip to California for a pageant, and of course their car breaks down in the smallest town that you could think of. So the three of them are in this really small town, and they're helping the town with all their personal problems without the town even knowing that they were all born men. As you can imagine, the town finds out eventually, and I won't spoil anything from there. If you watch only one LGBTQ film in your entire life, Paris is Burning should be that film. I will go out and say that is the most iconic LGBTQ film that has ever been made. Because this is a documentary about where our community comes from. We would not have RuPaul's Drag Race if it weren't for the ballrooms in New York. You've seen the TV show Pose? That show is based on these ballrooms and subsequently based on Paris is Burning. What ballroom culture is the Black and Latinx community in New York created this underground LGBTQ culture. And what they would do was compete for different trophies and prizes. What they would do at these competitions ranged from dancing to walking the runway to fashion to so many different categories. The creation of voguing came from the ballroom. You know, voguing like how Madonna brought it into the mainstream because of these ballrooms. So Madonna clearly didn't invent voguing, but she had the platform that these underground communities did not have, and she brought it into the mainstream. A lot of things in pop culture that isn't recognized by coming from these communities are very much LGBTQ created. Within our community, there's a lot of discrimination, and I don't think our community realizes that it was the Black LGBTQ and Latinx LGBTQ communities that really created our movement. I don't think enough credit is given to those two communities within our community. And Paris is Burning changes that. It's because of classic films like To Wong Foo and Paris is Burning, we have movies today like Love, Simon. Love, Simon is a teenage romance drama coming out story. It's definitely more for teens, and it's not gonna be an Academy Award winning film, but it is such a significant movie. Aside from how the characters are pretty vanilla and definitely more on the white side, not representing our really diverse culture, but it does show a gay teen romance. When I was a teenager, if I went out on a Friday night while I was in high school with some friends to see a movie and I saw this movie, it would show me that it was okay to feel the way that I was feeling, to be who I am, and to see the representation on the screen. That's why Love, Simon is so important and kind of a game changer for mainstream queer culture. You know, we see a lot of these really cheesy Hallmark movies that are so dumb, but we all watch it. No, we don't. I don't. But a lot of people still watch them. And that's kind of how I feel Love, Simon is. It's the kind of movie for like a gay teenager can feel comfortable watching with their parents. Like nothing super radical about the movie or jarring in any way. It's a good introduction. Moving away from a film that doesn't have a whole lot of substance, we go to The Way He Looks, which has the diversity that we want to see in LGBTQ films. It's a Portuguese film, so get ready for subtitles. Personally, I love films made in different countries because they don't always follow the same patterns as the American movies. The main character is a blind boy, and as he's trying to navigate and be more independent and do things for himself rather than have his parents do it for him, he falls in love with a guy. It's a romance drama, but it's more of a lighthearted drama, and it makes me happy to see the representation that it's about a blind boy. It's about someone that lives life differently than someone who is obviously not blind. Because seeing a blind kid as the main character, we are open to a bunch more conflicts that we might not see if the character was able to see properly. There's one scene where the kid kind of struggles shaving his own face, which for a lot of us, that's something we take for granted. We don't even think about not being able to do that. But that's what this kid goes through, and during all of this, trying to figure out how to be independent for himself, he falls in love with another boy, and that creates even more conflict, but it also creates a sense of identity at the same time. It's one of my favorite movies that I've seen multiple times. Such a good, unique story that we don't have a lot of that in American films. If I had to choose like which direction LGBTQ films were gonna go after all of these, I would sincerely hope that it goes in the way of the way he looks. My list is growing and I have a lot of time on my hands right now. If you have any suggestions for LGBTQ films, please don't hesitate to let me know. As always, if you like the content that I'm creating and joining me on this journey around America, as well as these babbling videos of queer culture, please like and subscribe to this channel. Or if you want to harass me in the comments, subscribe first and then do it.